Good afternoon. Are you ready to talk about revolutions? Good. That's good. It's because I'm French, my wife is Cuban, and I just did a lot of history homework with a fourth grader. So I know a thing or two about revolutions. But the revolutions we will talk about today is a bit different. Is how energy has revolutionized the way we work, the way we live, and how data and AI will revolutionize the way we think and procure energy. Okay, first I need to get the formalities out of the way. So what I'm about to say will have a lot of forward-looking statements, and there are some risks and uncertainties in everything I say. Therefore, make your own judgment about taking decision based on what is said. I think I did a good job at getting the formality out. Now, I really want to thank Deloitte and AWS for sponsoring this event, as well as I want to recognize our Databricks Brick Builder solutions with some of these partners that you see on screens. At Databricks, we want to make it as easy as possible for our customers to build solutions, but we're not in the business of offering turnkey commercial solutions. We do that through our partners. We want to scale through our partners, and therefore our partner ecosystem is extremely important. Similarly, and if there are some syllable tech people in the room, if you can raise your hand. Over there, I saw some hands. I apologize that I missed your partner award yesterday. The event went much faster than planned, and I had too many other commitments. But thank you, Syllable Tech, for everything we've done in the past few years in the energy space, and looking forward to a lot more. Okay, let's jump into the topic of the day. And I'm super excited to be talking to you about the energy paradox we live in. The world needs a lot more energy, and obviously we need to provide this energy with a lot less emissions. And I do believe that data and AI is a way to do this. So for those of you that have a long-term view, it's about the resilience of humankind, being able to provide energy to the world. If you have a more short or mid-term view, it's about the resilience of your company for the near future. And data and AI is a solution to most of this. So my name is Julien Debard. I lead the energy and utilities at Databricks. And I stand in front of you. You represent about 220 of our customers and 220 companies that are helping the world get the energy that it needs. So I want to thank you for that. As well, when I looked at the different job titles, it's about a 50-50 splits between data and AI leaders, business and operation leaders. And I do want all of you to leave today excited about the opportunity ahead. So for the business and operations leader, over the past few months and years, a lot of progress has been made with what we can do in data and AI. And I want to be sharing with you the art of the possible today. I spent 20 years in operation before moving to digital 5 years ago, and I had no idea that all those things were feasible. I was dreaming of them while running my operation with my whiteboard and my Excel sheets, right? For the data and AI leaders in the room, I want you to realize of how important your job is for the world. And we'll start by this piece. What we do every day is absolutely critical for all the lives around the world. And I want you to live very certain that what you do is extremely beneficial for the world. So energy is the engine of innovation. And all of us in this room, we are the engine of progress for humankind. Do you know what this graph is? I wish it was Databricks revenue over the past few quarters. Not far with world emissions. It's actually the world population over the past 2,000 years. That's extremely hyperbolic. If you look for thousands of years, the world stayed under 1 billion people. And just over the past 225 years, the world has grown to 8 billion. And if I zoom just on the last 200 years or 225 years, the world will keep on growing to 10 billion by 2075, 2080, right? And that means a lot more energy is required. And even once you see this plateau in the world population, that doesn't mean that we stop growing the demand for energy, because a lot of this population growth is happening in countries where the standard of living is nowhere close to what we're living here in the US or in Europe or in other places. And while the population will start to stagnate, the demand for energy will still keep on growing. So for the alumni to the energy forums I've done at the beginning of the year, some of the next few slides are going to feel like deja vu. But first, I thought it was too important, and the feedback I received was too positive not to share with the rest of the community we have today. And second, there is a slight twist at the end, so please stay with me even if you've seen some of these slides. So what I superimpose on this graph here in green is actually the life expectancy average in the world. Did you realize that 225 years ago, we were expected to live only 35 years old? I would not be there. A few of us in the room would not be there, even though I see a lot of young faces. Similarly, the poverty level was much higher. This graph is a percentage of the population that lived under equivalent $2.50 per day in today's money, right, with all the exchange rate and inflation going on. So very fortunately, over the past 225 years, we've increased our life expectancy to almost 75 years. Fortunately, there is only, but still, 10% of the population that lives under a poverty threshold. And how did this all happen? Well, I want to take you back to the 1800s. What were you doing in the 1800s? You would be living right next to your farmland. You would be farming all day long in order to provide food for your family. The source of energy was food, therefore your muscles, the one of your animals, and wood for fire. Maybe a few water mills and windmills to create a mechanical energy. But at the end of the 18th century, a fantastic machine was invented, and that's the steam engine, which used coal to create heat and water vapor in order to turn equipment. What did this create is a mechanization of agriculture that led to a 100% yield increase in the production from every acre of our farmland. It also revolutionized transport and electricity, because now we could have rotating equipment creating electricity. Now, by the 1859, the demand for energy was even growing. More and more transport, more and more electricity needed to be generated. And for the first time in 1859, we drilled the first oil well, because the oil that was seeping out of the ground at that time was not enough anymore. We used to get oil out of the ground to put light in our streets. Now we wanted oil to create energy, and we had to drill the first well, right? It took 90 years for oil to become the primary source of energy around the world, and it still is today the primary source of energy around the world. Now, like I said, we were also creating electricity through rotating equipment, and therefore this is a picture of the first electric line 14 miles long in Oregon in order to power some street lights. Now, with energy from coal, from oil, we started developing a lot more transport. We were also able to do a lot more cement. We were able to produce more steel, and therefore we enabled a few things, including assembly lines, cities, cars, and all those things, right? And what that really changed is the way we work, right? So the farmers, now a few of them could produce the electricity that the world needed, they produce the food that the world needed. And so people started moving to cities to work in assembly lines. And that's the first time that instead of people being in charge and setting their own pace to work, the machine was setting their pace to work. And I will come back to that, because there is some similarity with what's happening today with the AI revolution. Now, as we produce more and more from our fields, we also needed to feed it. And thanks to the production of hydrocarbon and chemicals, thanks to transport, we were able to bring fertilizers and pesticides, which have 5x'd the yield from our agriculture land. This is extremely important, because today, without fertilizer or pesticide, we would not be able to feed more than half of the world population of 4 billion people. We need them in order to feed the world. Plastic, refrigeration, transport, and some very interesting chemicals also enabled the development of vaccines and antibiotics, which obviously were extremely critical in improving our life expectancies. Now we were to the end of the industrial revolution and we started the technology revolution. And that's where we started developing the first windmills for electricity and the first solar panels for electricity around 1985. And then the world was buzzing, right? It was a world economy that needed to be orchestrated. We needed to develop communications, financial institution. So the internet came in. The cell phone came in. The cloud came in order to be able to innovate quicker. You don't have to invest a lot of CapEx into setting up your own data centers. You can rent by the second, try something. If it doesn't work, you shut it off, right? Now, I'll come back to that, but we also had a lot more free time. While people initially didn't like assembly lines, it increased the production of our work. And therefore, we started having more free time, and therefore streaming became something. And what's interesting with streaming, I find that it's a good way to realize how much connectivity has improved over the past 20 years, right? In 2000, to download one of the normal Netflix movie that we stream live today would have taken 4.5 days. I was actually doing that from my room at Georgia Tech back then. 2012, EVs, right? They do reduce pollution in our cities, undeniable. Now, it takes 7 times more mineral to build an EV than it does to build an internal combustion engine. And the right thing to do when you have an EV is to charge it using renewable energy. Renewable energy takes 6 times more mineral than oil and gas by energy density. So while it is fantastic from a pollution standpoint in the cities, it doesn't solve the problem that there is a lot of mining required in order to get these EVs on the road and running. And obviously, ChatGPT, we need to give credit to the democratization of GenAI in 2023. And I couldn't miss to say that in 2024, Databricks invented the data intelligence platform, which I believe will go down in the history books as a key point in the way we do things. So I hope it starts to give you a sense of how important we are, how important your job is for everybody around us, right? The Industrial Revolution, we moved to assembly lines. We started having more free time. This is an average globally, so obviously some people will have more or less free time, and if, like me, you have kids, you don't believe these numbers. But truth be told, when we look at the AI revolution, we should not be scared. We've done that over and over again. We feel that the machine was going to replace our work. We invented the service sector. AI will replace a lot of work from the service sector. We will invent something else. We will have more free time. And if you look at I take you back to the graph of the aging population that's going to flatten. We're going to have an aging population with less and less people getting born. We need to augment the GDP created by every single individual tremendously in order to pay for everybody that's going to be enjoying a long retirement. And AI is here to do that. So we should not be scared of it. We should embrace it. It's very important for us. Now, all I've presented is very generalized to the world. Truth be told, and I've been very fortunate through my career to live and work on 6 continents, it's a very disparate view of the world today. In Africa, I was living in Nigeria. Energy poverty is very clear, right? You see people cooking on wood fire, which is absolutely terrible for their health. We have a large part of the world where energy security remains a huge concern, right? And we take for granted on the West that when you go and flip the switch on your wall, the light will come in. I tell you, it's not granted everywhere. Like I started, my wife is from Cuba. In Cuba, which we get the chance of visiting, electricity is not available all day long. Actually, in some places of Cuba, they have electricity 3 or 4 hours a day only. Think how you manage your refrigerator and your freezer with 4 hours of electricity a day. This is today, right? 2025. And obviously, the climate change. So what is our challenge? Our challenge is to provide energy with some opposite constraint. It needs to be affordable. It needs to be reliable. It needs to be sustainable. But more importantly, we need a lot more energy. So I like this quote from Scott Tinker, and he says, when looking at the energy problems or challenge, one must be completely factual and factually complete. What do we mean? What does he mean by that? It is completely factual that solar and wind are the fastest growing sources of energy for the past 30 years. But to be completely factual, we need to look that solar and wind still represent only about 30% of the electricity we produce around the world. And to be furtherly completely factual. Electricity only represents 17% of the total energy consumption around the world. So what is this? Every time we've discovered a new source of energy, it has not replaced the old one. It has just helped respond to the increased demand in energy. We consume more coal than we've ever before. We consume more oil than we've ever before. We still use gas more than before. So every new source of energy that we bring online is actually helping the world grow, and it's not replacing the old source of energy. And what does that mean? Where we have more sources, we have more consumption. That means that our energy system is extremely complex. And every single one of you in this room is working on one or multiple of those red lines. But obviously, it's becoming very difficult to make sense of it all. And the only way to make sense of it all is by becoming data intelligence, using all the data available from this complex energy system and use the computing power that is available to us today in order to make sense of it, optimize it, and reduce waste. This is a new imperative. So we used to have this slide that said every company wants to be a data and AI company, probably to get the multiple factor on the New York Stock Exchange that data and AI company benefit from. Truth be told is today your company must become a data and AI company, otherwise you're not going to be in the business for very long because you will be overcome by some of the competition that is embracing it. Your data is your value. It is your differentiator. It is your competitive edge. It is also yours to own and govern. Your data needs to be seen as your IP. You would not give your IP to someone else to store and manage. You're not going to give your patent to be stored by someone else. You need to see your data in the exact same way. This is your differentiation. So at Databricks, I find that often we have a bit of proximity bias. We assume that people understand everything our platform can do and how it's grown over the years. I want to take a step back and go back with you on where we come from. The first thing is we believe that it's extremely important to standardize your core. What we mean by that is that you need to own your own data. You need to store it once in cheap cloud and refuse vendor lock-in. Refuse vendor telling you I need to first copy your data in my own tenant in order to do anything with it, because then they own you, they own your data. We also want all the data sets to be connected onto a single platform to make the data science and ML exercise that we want to be making today. And all this is about future-proofing your company and avoiding further migration. You've seen the pace of innovation I was showing earlier with the pictures. It just keeps on increasing. You're going to be hit by a ton of software vendors that come with better solutions. They are truly better. But if you want to be able to try it and make your own mind, you cannot every time have to migrate your data in order to give them access to it and all this. They need to be able to plug and play directly on your data. You need to be able to try them. And like I was saying earlier, the cloud helps you innovate faster. Your data intelligence platform will help you innovate faster by trying the new innovation that are coming. The second point is that your data needs to be governed from a single pane of glass. And we don't mean this in the sense of traditional catalogs where you get your access control. We also want to have one single discovery catalog. We want to provide data lineage. We want to provide the audit view. And we want to govern all of your data, not just your tables, your AI models, your notebooks, your files. All of this needs to be governed under a single platform. So that's what we call Unity Catalog, that unified view. Now, what we do with Unity Catalog, we've acquired a company and we've developed our own tool. We've acquired Mosaic ML and we took the Mosaic AI tools. We've developed our own apps and AI and BI and reporting. But we're also fully committed to interoperability. We know and we want you to keep the choice of using the tools that you like. And for the data and AI leaders in the room, we know that the business and operations leader in the room as well do not like to change the screen they're using. And if they are used to seeing a dashboard on a certain screen, it is better to let them see the dashboard through this screen first. What we want is to manage the underlying data so it all comes from a single pane that you control and govern yourself. And that's what we created by bringing data intelligence on top of the platform. So this data intelligence engine we bring on the platform obviously helps serve the Spark engineers and the warehouse engineers and the analytics engineers, help them make their work faster, do some coding for them. It helps with security. It helps with identification of patterns. But obviously, GenAI also helps democratize the use of the platform, so your operations business leaders can also use the platform using natural language. And by the way, the data intelligence engine also understands your company, your data, understand the semantics. I am not a coder. I'm a mechanical and industrial engineer by trade. I've never written a single line of code. The only way I use our platform is with natural language. And when I ask what was my revenue in Q1, it knows that for Databricks, the fiscal year starts from February to February. So when I ask Q1, it knows what I mean is February, March, April, because it understands the semantics of my data. So with this platform that we call the data intelligence platform, in summary, what we want is connect to any external sources. Now I want to be practical and concrete. That means your equipment data, your OT. That means your finance data. That means your emissions data. That means weather data and anything else you can think of. And obviously, we want the data scientists, data analysts, and data engineers to be using it, but we also want the rest of your organization to be able to use and create value from these data, right, and democratize it. So I put some very specific job roles here that can go and question the data themselves and need to be able to access it directly without always having to ask someone else to run a dashboard or to create a dashboard for them. And that's what we call the connected intelligence, what I call the removing the silos. So we talk a lot about convergence, OT, IT. Really what we mean is having your OT data, your IT data, and all other ecosystem of data under one place. You can do some data science using all of it, right? So here, what we're saying, you take all your data and AI assets, all your data sources in any format, and I'm sorry for the edits here, that's moving from PowerPoint to Google Slide back and forth, but the idea is to have the governance, the interoperability, and the built-in intelligence supporting it. And what we do here is connecting your OT, your SCADA, your vibration sensor, your temperature pressure sensors, with your IT, your financial data, the competency of your people, their time schedule, your logistics, and with all other sources of data, the weather data, the news, social media, economic forecasts, commodities insights. I will share with you some use cases that actually make use of this all in order to really create value. So, moving from vision to value. As I came to Databricks, I developed with the rest of the team, and actually the other industry leaders have done the same. We have developed a business outcome map. And the idea is we don't want to be talking only about data intelligence platform, about data and AI. We want to be talking about the value that it creates for you. So I put this very busy slide, hoping that your eyes naturally go towards the use case that is most important for you. But I also would like your feedback. So if you can get your phones out, I would absolutely appreciate if you can help me with this little survey. And what this survey does is asking you if you could share with me how you prioritize use cases. Because we cannot do it all. Well, we can do it all, but it's going to take time. And our biggest challenge in the energy and utility space is to understand where is the biggest bang for the buck. Where do we have the biggest impact on the world? So really appreciate if you guys fill this information. I'll leave it here for a few more seconds because I know that you have to fill it up a bit. So the art of the possible. What I'm going to share with you, I believe has not been done by any of our customers end to end. But I know that every single piece of it has been done by one or many of you. And if some of you have done it end to end, please come see me at the end because you'll be the customer award of next year. But it is a matter of weeks before we manage to do this use case end to end because we have all the elements, we have all the bricks. So I'm talking about predictive maintenance. It is fairly much table stakes today to do predictive maintenance using your OT data. Again, we're talking about pressure, temperature, vibration sensors, and all those things. You may mix it with some physics-based model and with some machine learning, and you're able to establish when do you need to do maintenance before an equipment fail. That is happening today, right? It is also happening today with some of our customers and some of you in the room that we do smart part sourcing. And what I mean by that is that you look into your inventory if you have certain parts. If they are not available, you're able to know when they are available, what bay in your warehouse they are. But if they are not available, you're able to find out very quickly who are the suppliers that can provide these parts, what is their lead time, what is the estimated time of departure, what is the estimated time of arrival. And therefore, you know when you'll have all the necessary spare parts to do that maintenance, because your maintenance manuals that you may be storing in PDF document can absolutely be codified today, and we know what are the spare parts that you need. Similarly, we do, with many of you today, some skill and competency scheduling. Obviously, with our connection with SAP, but also other HR solutions, we are able to find the competency of your personnel, so we know who are the people that are competent to go and do that maintenance on that particular equipment, and we can find their time schedule, so we know when they can actually do it, right? They may be on vacation, they may be sick, they may be on another job. We do that with some of you today. We do a lot of weather prediction, especially with our utility company customers, not only to know how much electricity you're going to be generating from your solar and wind, but obviously how much your customers are going to be consuming if it gets really cold or very hot. We do that today. And we do a lot of price forecasting. We do that with trading with our customers, where we look at what's going to be the best price. So when you try to do predictive maintenance end-to-end, you want to pick the optimum window, where you do it before the equipment fails, you do it once you have all the spare parts, you do it when your people are available, you do it when the weather is all right, because you cannot put people to go and fix electric lines in a bucket truck when there is a 60 miles per hour wind. And you do it when the economics is based, meaning when you will lose the less revenue. You're not going to go and fix that turbine, that wind turbine, or do maintenance on that wind turbine when the grid needs electricity and it's windy. If you can wait, you're going to do it when there is no wind, right? This is absolutely feasible. I used to do that. As I was in oil and gas. I had a few Excel sheets and a whiteboard behind me, and I probably had 3 assets to manage. But today we want to be managing thousands of assets. We want to have real-time updates, and risk management is more and more important for all the decisions we take. And the only way to do this is with a very strong computing power, and that's what our platform offers. Again, we do every one of those steps with some of you, many of these steps, and it's just a matter of weeks before someone does it all. Okay, second and last use case, from the art of the possible from a utility standpoint. I love what's happening in utility. Standard utility a few years back, you had a gas plant, you had a coal plant, you may have had a nuclear plant, you may have an hydroelectric barrage dam. You would be putting it into the grid and powering residential, commercial, industrial. Full stop. Electrons moving from left to right. But then came the renewables, another source of energy to integrate that, by the way, is intermittent, doesn't always produce. And then it gets more and more of this on the production side. And then people started creating their own electricity in their house. So you had to manage the fact that now some of your consumers were just generating their own electricity when the weather was right. We need to plan for that because you're not going to be selling electricity to them when there is sun. And then the EVs came in, changing the load because now people are charging their EVs at night. And then the smart controls, starting giving access to your retailers about your smart thermostat or you being able to control it. And then batteries, really democratized, both at the production sites next to the wind farms and the solar panels, but as well people in the house using the extra electricity they were producing from their solar panel to charge their batteries so they could be using that energy at night, therefore further reducing their consumption from the actual grid. And then consumers started saying, well, I have more electricity than I need. Can I sell it back into the grid? And the electrons started flowing the other way. And electric utilities started putting battery, grid-sized battery, and started using hydrogen to store electricity. That's a lot of changes in only a few years. A utility company a few years ago had to manage the electrons one way and the regulators. That was it. Today, they have to manage this very complex system, and by the way, the demand for electricity is growing tremendously. And that's what the unified data intelligence does, connect all these points to all the users. So at Databricks, we have a mission. It is to solve the world's toughest problems. It is truly our mission. And obviously, I think the toughest problem that humankind is facing is access to energy, so I think we are in the right place. But we want to do it with you and for all. So really appreciate everybody coming in. Thanks a lot. And we're going to continue the discussion with a panel with some of our customers. So we're going to be able to ask them questions about really how they're using Databricks. So if Lou Martinez can join me on stage. So Lou is the CTO and EVP of R&D for Westinghouse Electric Company, doing a lot of nuclear energy. I want to read some of the bio from Lou because once it's impressive, and there are a lot of French words in there as well. Because Lou has spent 20 years in the space, and not only in energy, but also in biotech, automotive, and other spaces. And she worked at French company, Framatome, SPI Batignolles, and others. And Lou also graduated from Spain, but also had some very prestigious degrees from very prestigious universities in France. So I have to read those names because I love them, the Pierre and Marie Curie Paris University and the René Descartes University. And Lou is also a master black belt, Lean Six Sigma from the Ohio State University. So thanks a lot for joining us, Lou. I appreciate that. Next on stage is Ali. Ali Marzban, joining us from NOV. He's a director of data science and analytics. So Ali not only owns a PhD, he's also a professional engineer, has an MBA, and has been spending 18 years in really innovation leadership in the energy sector. And I relate to Ali because he's a mechanical engineer as well and use data science for that. And I specialize in predictive maintenance, so I'm hoping the use case that we presented comes from NOV very soon. And he's been spending 18 years leading cross-functional team and really using GenAI recently. So Ali, thanks a lot for joining us. Bryce Bartmann is a Chief Digital Technology Advisor at Shell. So Bryce represents Shell on the LF Energy Governing Body and Technical Advisory Committee. But what I find impressive is that Bryce is actually the brain behind what we call the Sensor Intelligence Platform, SSIP, inside Shell, which you have given open sourced, a la Databricks, so really appreciate that, to RTDIP, so real-time data ingestion platform. So if you go on rtdip.io, you'll see the work from Bryce, and you can use it in order to ingest your OT data and others. Bryce is also a regular contributor to Databricks energy forums and others, so really appreciate that. And I think you just had a session earlier. If he has a session during the day, I really recommend going there. Thank you for being here, Bryce. And then Shane Powell, Director of Data Analytics at Southern Company. So Shane is a very accomplished leader and also a recurring figure to our energy forums, and really appreciate being here. Unfortunately, this year you're not going to be able to hear from his presentation because he has some other time commitment that he needs to leave to go there. But Shane holds an electrical and computer engineering degree. He is also a licensed professional engineer. He is a graduate of multiple leadership program, and I have to say probably the most important being Georgia Tech, because that's where also I graduated. So thank you for being here. And thanks all of you for joining us. So look, I set a little bit of the context to the presentation earlier, right? Obviously, the pace of innovation is moving extremely fast. And what I want to address through this discussion with you guys over the next 25, 30 minutes is the role that data and AI leaders are taking through this transformation, right? Not only how the role has changed over the years from being let's be honest, an internal function, right, and the cost centers to becoming a true business and partner leader. But as well, how you've been taking your team through this adoption of AI, adoption of GenAI, some of the challenge, and obviously discussing there is some energy fatigue inside or there is some digital transformation fatigue inside energy, because we've been talking about digital transformation for probably 15 years, and we've not delivered on our promises very often, let's be honest. So I certainly want to hear from you that, and then obviously the positive on the use case and what you're doing, right? So this role shift of your role, maybe going one by one here, how do you see your role having changed? You are all in CIOs, data and AI leaders. How do you see this role having changed over the years, how it has evolved to become, how do we become this true strategic business partner? Because as I talk to customers, I still hear a lot of data and AI leaders saying, I need to convince my business leaders of doing this and that. So maybe starting with you, Lou, how do you sort that challenge of being the true business partner?
Well, this is an effort of every day, I will say. But there one thing that is very important for people to understand about the nuclear industry is that we are a data-driven industry. So due to the constraints that we have with the regulator, we need to track every single piece of data internally and when we are working also with our customers. So we have over 70 years of data that is waiting for the right tools, and now we are living kind of the dream because the tools are ready to help us understand what it means and develop them better. In Westinghouse, actually 5 years ago, I'm the EVP of R&D and Innovation, but actually the department that I lead is called Digital and Innovation, because we know that digital with the AI and the data is what is going to bring that business. We launched our nuclear-specific AI that is called Hive, with a base in a lot of the tools that you have presented from Databricks. And how we work with the business is really related to bringing the value and solving the problems that they have in two ways, either to solve problems in how they operate in their own business lines and showing the value very fast with proof of concepts, but always starting with them and integrating them in the process. And at the same time, some of our customers, mostly utilities, of course, they ask us, oh, wow, that is very impressive. How you been able to move from on-premise into cloud so you can use Gen AI? So we tell them that how we have worked with the regulator, how we have done all those things, and then they start seeing the future and in the P&L how that is going to shift. And there they start getting very, very interested on the AI. It has to be also taken into account that the divulgation of data with open sources tools, it helps also a lot, because they have their kids, they have their nephews that they are already using those tools, and they are starting to be much more interested in how to do it. And we built also an educational program, we call it Data Citizen. So it's for all the engineers and employees, colleagues that they want to initiate into using this tool. You mentioned, I'm a bit like you, I'm a scientist, but I don't code. Now I'm living the dream because I usually need somebody to help me on the team to do all that coding. Now all the models, I'm very autonomous to doing myself, and thank you to the team. There are some of them here in the crowd, and those are the ones that are helping us to have access to that data.
Thank you. Ali, how do you see your role having changed over the years?
Sure. Thank you, Julien, for having us here. So traditionally, my role was to deliver a tool to the people to make the life easier for them, for the AI. And this role has changed significantly, especially during the past couple of years after Gen AI and everything became public and ChatGPT came in, OpenAI, and everybody else after that. I have been working on AI-related projects for more than 10 years or so, but becoming publicly available AI tools to people change the role that they have internally within the company, NOV, or externally with our customers. The customers are asking for more to make the life easier for them because it is more publicly available. And my role has changed from delivery and a smart tool to make the life easier for them to a more strategic role as well. I'm sitting at the table internally and externally to put the strategy in front of the people to be able to make the whole company smarter in the near future. And it is very difficult to predict what will happen with AI. On daily basis, we are getting a new tool on a new engine or something that is changing the whole concept of what was going on before. So it is very difficult to do that, but still, sitting with the client, hearing from them, and putting a strategy on the table with them is the main role that I have right now. I am trying to help the clients not only having a smart solution, I'm trying to help them to ask a smart question as well, by knowing the boundaries of AI and what they can achieve by using AI on day-to-day basis or day-to-day life of their customers and their own employees.
Thank you. Bryce, you've been in the space and you've developed a lot. How did you see the role changing? And
yeah, so I mean, when you asked that question, I was kind of thinking, where did my career start? Because most of my career has actually been working in data, and believe it or not, data was not really seen as the cool thing as it is today. I mean, I don't ever remember a summit that would have been called the Data Summit or anything along those regards. The data team that I originally started working in, even like to think about it, it was kind of like you see in the IT crowd. We literally worked in the basement in the one project that I worked on. Like, we were not the hit at all. And so going from something like that to now sitting here on stage, looking at everyone talking about data and AI, like how things have changed, it really is quite remarkable, like what that journey has been. But I think, like, in terms of how that's grown for me from a career perspective is, you know, always kind of trying to make sure that the decisions I made were future-proofed, that, like, the decisions around going for something like a lake house instead of a warehouse was really about how do we position the company to look forward instead of trying to just modernize by looking backwards. I think that has really stood the test of time and has really, like, helped us shape up the way we want to go forwards. And because of that, we've been able to have a much more strategic position within the organization to try and help our company get to where it needs to be. So it's really, you know, I think it's just a remarkable change from where we have been to where we are today, and really looking forward to what comes out of every single year. Like you said, it changes every minute, and that's actually really exciting. And so it's great to be part of that story.
Shane?
One, I thought data was always the cool thing. So I think the role has evolved. A lot of what Ali said really resonated with me. It's gone from full service to we're trying to give you enable you to do it yourself, back to strategy and advisor, back to ownership. Now we're into AI, and now it's back to, you know, does the business know how to do this, or do you need my help? So it's really always evolving as technology evolves and as data and AI evolves. I think what we're doing is always going to be challenging. Like, we're always bleeding edge. So the role continues to evolve. And as I sit around and talk to people at the summit, how our organizations are structured and what our strategy is, it seems to be always evolving. And there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just lots of different ways. And so, you know, what Bryce said, we're trying to do the right thing for the business in the moment. But I think it's very exciting and challenging at the same time.
Yeah, no, thank you. So maybe having some individual discussion, I'll comment here. And Ali, the first question for you. NOV, very diverse workforce. You've done a lot of work combining IT and OT, but obviously as soon as we talk about OT, we talk about people that don't necessarily live and breathe data and AI. How have you been managing that adoption, people accepting to be working with the tools of today?
It's not only NOV, but the whole energy industry has the same problem. We have a lot of PhDs who are doing a lot of data science and data analytics, and we also have technicians who are working on the field, and they barely have internet access. So it's a very diverse portfolio of people that we have inside energy industry. And we need to make AI tangible and feasible for everybody over there. That's the main concept that we are considering. So it's easy to add another dashboard on daily basis to stare at. What you need to do, or what we are supposed to do, is make a colleague out of AI to be able to answer questions like that you are asking your colleague from. You can easily add a lot of charts, a lot of graphs, red, green, all of those stuff. That is probably a solution of the past. What you need to look at is to use AI, Gen AI, and whatever tool that you have to make a smart colleague to be able to be accessible by the most advanced user and by the least advanced user as well. That's the key. The second thing that you need to consider is usually when we are dealing with our customers or ourselves, I'm receiving like tens of emails, probably a lot of you guys have the same thing, that people are reaching out and they're providing models that, okay, we can do this, we can do that, we are offering this AI solution, we are offering that AI solution. That is not the way that we are dealing with. We go ahead and sit with the customers. We find the problem first. We listen to them. We figure out what is the problem, what is the pain point of the industry. Then we offer a model and a solution to that pain point. That's the key as well. If you don't know the solution or the problem, you cannot offer a very good solution to that to be able to solve the problem. So first of all, listen to the customers, figure out what is the problem, and then offer a solution that can manage the whole array of the people, from the most advanced AI users to the least advanced ones.
Yeah. And that's a common theme we hear, right? We have a technology, so we try to apply it to something, start with the use case and the business value, walk back, find the technology that will solve it for you.
Exactly.
So, Bryce, obviously at Shell, you massive scale, massive complexity. How do you prioritize with your team what to work on?
Yeah, that is, I mean, it's going to be the obvious answer, I think. It's the business value, but I think in the complexity, in a company like Shell, that business value is not always achievable, because I think in the energy sector, most of you probably have the same problem in your own companies. These are decades-old assets, right? Your data sets are all really old. They're all different because like standards and process weren't really applied unless it's the last 20 years. And so and I think we all get caught in this trap in the energy sector, which is we find a POC that proves value and it works for a very specific use case with a very specific data set, and then everyone runs around patting each other on the back, and then you go out there and you try and roll it out and it takes you like 10 years because like no one did anything the same, no one's data sets are the same, no systems are the same. And so for us that has been a real challenge for us. So when we look at business value, we need to also look at like the opportunity to really scale that. And I think if we can't scale it, even if it is a fantastic solution, we do have to deprioritize it for those that we can. So it's often a very tricky thing to get right. But when people actually do get their data right, it's remarkable the speed you can work at when it is right. So, for me, when we look at this, the investment into the data components of data and AI, like do not underestimate what you need to invest to get that right, because that is what's going to unlock everything else for you.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic segue to the question I wanted to ask you, Shane, because you've been extremely successful moving from pilot to production. I guess tomorrow we'll hear about Spear and Ramp that you guys have developed at Southern Company and that are being used very successfully today. So what is the advice you'd give to people? How have you managed that success of moving from pilot to production, something that is used through your entire company today?
I think they've already said it, but it was use case development with the business in mind at the table from the beginning. So we did some really cool things before that no one knew about until we rolled it out, and then you couldn't roll it out. It wasn't successful. So having executive or leadership buy-in before you start the project, really understanding the use case, understanding how we're going to implement change or the technology into the business. When we find a solution, is it scalable? Does it work? What's the value? Very hard things, and it's hard to get them right, but doing those things on the front end saves so much work on the back end, right? So we know that we're prioritizing the right use case, and that as soon as we get into development, it immediately has business impact. So I think then seeing success and finding something that makes impact to the business, now you've got a champion and you've got a voice to run around the company and say data's cool and y'all should do it, and you've got advocates, right? And I think success brings more success because you've got an army of people talking about it, even yourself. That brings credibility to what we're doing, and it makes it easier. So then people are coming to you with ideas instead of instead of us having to invent everything on our own.
So something you've all touched on at different points in your comments here, And I find very important as I talk to customers, this idea of a champion, of a business user that is sat at the table when you define what you want to do in terms of data and AI project has been resoundingly important in every discussion I've had. The people that seem to be successful are the ones that bring these very influential, loud voices, business leader, operations managers, shop floor people, really early, onboarding them, making them part of the development of the project, not only because they give all the great ideas, but it also became theirs, and they go and talk about it. And then it's a snowball effect, as I call it, where the use case and keep on coming. Very quickly, not spending too much time on this, but I feel that in energy, we have a little bit of digital transformation fatigue, as I said earlier, because we've not been delivering on promises for a long time. So very briefly, how do you guys see that today? Is it true? Is it happening? Are we past that stage where the tools are now competent enough that people have said, okay, they didn't promise before, but now they are promising? Maybe starting with you, Bryce.
Yeah, I think the great thing about what is happening right now is it seems like the technology is telling the story a little bit for us. Like we aren't having to go there and pitch an idea and hope someone adopts it. As an example, I was in Qatar a couple of weeks ago and just having that classic like water cooler chat moment where the person who heads the asset was telling me about how AI was changing their job. So in that scenario, it's much easier for me to then say, well, hey, you know, like we can actually work with you on that and we can really try and help you. And I think there's not many moments in technology's past where it's as significant as this one. There are like these kind of like it's going to, but then it doesn't really, and that, but this one is like really big. So I think in terms of like, you know, we do drop the ball, let's all be honest, in the IT departments, we have made mistakes, like you said earlier. I think like we got to make sure that we are better at working on projects and delivering them so that actually we can recognize the value. But I think like right now we have such an opportunity with this technology that tells its own story, that gets everyone excited for its own reasons, that it impacts everyone in such different ways, whether they're making, you know, their own apps that have recipe books for their wives that cook at home, or whether it's something that makes them better at their job at work. Like it's all happening right now. And I think what we just need to do is put the ball on the goal and put the ball on the penalty spot and kick it in the goal. We just got to get that right.
Shane, I'm assuming you guys have developed a lot digital transformation fatigue thing of the past, or still happening at 1,000 Company?
Definitely still happening. So I've been in Southern Company for 26 years, and a lot of what we used was there when I got there. As a software engineer and a lot of data people in the room, sometimes that's kind of painful to say out loud. But I'm seeing more movement in technology in the last several years than in the past 2 decades. So we're probably feeling a little tension in our jobs across the industry from how much is actually happening at the same time. But you're seeing more success now, I think, across the board. You know, I talked to so many utilities that have new product coming out that are data-driven, have AI embedded in it, and actually make an impact to the business. So across the board, from the people I talk to, actually do see a lot of real examples happening, and it's making an impact, so then it gets regulators to believe in what you're saying and really buying into that digital transformation.
And Lou, maybe giving it a slightly different spin. Obviously, you operate in an industry, nuclear, that is extremely risk-averse, extremely regulated, so it takes an entire cultural shift to do what you do. How do you manage that today, and have you been able to get your team believing on all these promises that we can deliver?
I think we are in a very good path, but it has been really the last 5 years, and kudos to the team for all the patience. It is not easy to embrace nuclear culture with a data culture and a software culture. It doesn't go at the same speed. So one of the things that has been pretty successful is including the regulator from the very beginning. So the nuclear engineers, they feel much more comfortable when they tell them this is what the regulator is saying, and allow us actually to utilize it in this case or another. We have created an ethical committee. It's a very tough committee in Westinghouse for all the data scientists working in proof of concepts. But we know we need to go through that because you need to be compliant with legal, you need to be compliant, it is really ethical or not, because there are a lot of big consequences where we are applying these kind of tools. plus the training that we are doing, so it makes the engineers much more excited. And then somebody has mentioned it as well, is the executive sponsorship. And it's true that me being there on the executive committee, it helps a lot, because I do that buy-in with my peers, and when I see one that is starting to be a bit lost, I put in place this kind of, it's very informal, it is not something that is formalized in the company, but a bit kind of reverse mentoring. So I ask our first data scientists just to see, just one by one, explain them what it actually is AI. But also, if they want to see the back office, how the code is done, how the platform works, go into that side as well. It gets the meat out of AI, like if something like I cannot control is a black box, and then you realize, well, it's not that much actually, and all those pieces together is what is allowing us actually to move it faster. And then, as mentioned here, is more the value that is bringing. I think on the previous tools, we were over-promising. Like, hey, yeah, digital is going to do that, and then you arrive with your software, and it didn't work, and, oh, no worries, it's a bug, I need to deroute the code. And now with AI, because you can, as you has mentioned, Ali, you can talk with your own data in your own language, it changed it. And I have the example of some of our colleagues on the commercial department. They came to me and say, I need a bot. And it was like, what bot? I mean, nobody uses bots. I mean, I was not even understanding the question. What he wanted was, I want an LLM system. I want to touch base with my data, but I don't want to understand because, you know, engineers is easy and okay, they go through the burden of learning all that, but commercial people, you know how they are. They want to press a button, they want to write something and get the answer right away. And they are now seeing that with the LLM systems and the platforms we have created for them. It's still on proof of concept, they are still learning for it, but the adoption, I'm seeing it much faster than it was 15 years ago in our industry.
Good. And so in the 3 minutes we have left, you understand very much the art of the possible because you've lived through it. Can you share with the audience some of the use cases briefly that are the most interesting for you, that you believe are going to be the most impactful for the industry in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, choose. But Ali, starting with you, what's most exciting for you?
Sure. First of all, I predicted the future of AI and the winners of the AI realm are not going to be the people who are using the most complex or sophisticated model or the most expensive model with trillions of parameters and stuff. The winners of AI realm in energy industry and also in any other industry are the ones who deliver AI to the people who don't have any idea about it. They use it on a daily basis, and they don't even sense that it is AI behind the scene helping them out. So that's the future of the winners, and these people will be the winners. And at NOV, we have done that. I know we do not have a lot of time. I have a talk on Thursday. You can come with a detailed version of it. But we have a bunch of projects that we have delivered for the use cases in terms of quotation, in terms of delivering of like reports, in terms of generating reports, condition-based maintenance, that made the life easier for day-to-day engineers that they don't even sense that is happening behind the scene. If you ask somebody, what is the ROI for Excel, for example, in a company, they cannot calculate that. But take the Excel away from a company, and the company will collapse within a week. The AI that you are generating should be like that Excel, that you cannot calculate the ROI for it. But if you take it away, the company cannot work without it.
Bryce, unfair to ask you in 30 seconds to tell us what is the most exciting use case you see forward.
I think that automated assets, and so AI on the edge and where that is going, and the closed loop is really exciting for me. I think the other elements is maybe, you know, I think AI is going to reimagine the application layer in our tech stacks, and I get the feeling that's going to disappear, and we'll think about storage more as like brain memory rather than applications with data models. So those are the two that I'm really excited to see change.
Probably customer-facing information to really enable our customers to know everything about their energy demand and how they could lower it, which would free up energy on the grid, making it more efficient, lower their bills. I think that's a huge thing. Operational efficiency, just being able to access our data quickly and provide that back to either the customer or the teams to rebuild our system, and then storm management is something that, you know, with climate change, Hurricane Helene, it affected the whole East Coast. That's a whole thing that affects the whole world, and how we do that better, I think, is really exciting.
Lou, what is the use case that most excites you to democratize nuclear energy?
Aligned with your talk, Julien, that I really enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
It is, I mean, according to COP29, to COP28, 31 countries, they say that they need to triple new nuclear into their grids. So we are talking a lot here what AI is doing for us in nuclear to building it. So it is what we're going to do and how we are going to use. We're right now starting that experimentations on the construction side. We have fully digitalized already from the building information modeling. The data is there, how we can de-risk this construction. So actually it's that mix between what AI can do for energy, but also what energy can do for AI.
Absolutely. Well, we are at time. Please join me in thanking our panel for their insights and for coming today.